Well, welcome back to Restoring Home, where we talk about marriage, parenting, and faith. And today we're glad to have Rosella Groves with us again. She's been once before, but today our topic is family Bible time. And you have some real great insights for us. Again, for those people who may not have met you before or known you before, your husband is Adam, and you have 3 children. The oldest girl and the youngest girl, what ages are they?
The oldest is 9, and the youngest is 2.
And your son is how old?
5.
5.
Yeah,
Okay.
right in the middle.
So you've got a range there, and you've been working hard to teach them Scripture, introduce them to Scripture, and you've done a great job. Before we sat down, I saw some of the work you've done with them that they have produced as you've worked with them. Donna, you brought this to my attention, that Rosella has a really cool thing that she does here, and suggested we look into it. I'm so glad we did. So we're glad you're here, and we want to hear what you have learned about family Bible time or family Bible study with your kids. And Donna, if you want to ask her a few things, and I have a few questions of my own too.
Yeah, just share with everybody how you've used those little composition books or really notebooks, spiral notebooks, any kind of something for them to draw in to help your kids learn their Bible.
Yeah. So we call it Bible time at our house, and all we do really is sit on the couch, and if the kids are old enough, they have their Bible. My husband and I have our Bible, and he reads just one chapter from any book. We started in the Torah, so we started all the way with Genesis, and one chapter seemed to be sufficient. While he's reading, the kids have notebooks, and composition books or spiral notebook, and they write at the top the book and the chapter, and they just draw what they're hearing. And it's very simple. It's just how they're interpreting it, I guess, but we chime in to help them along the way. At least I do while he's reading.
Okay. So why do you feel like this has been such a powerful method? Like, what's an example of how you can see that it's really reaching their hearts, but also giving them, it's very memorable?
Yeah, I always found drawing to be helpful to remember things, or to somehow capture concepts. So it made sense that drawing would help them to remember the things that we were just reading. And especially when they're younger, like 5, it's hard to sit and listen to a long section. But the little bit of drawing that they do, that I help with, they're capturing a little bit of what we're talking about. And that's really what we're trying to do, is storytelling is get the story first as a young child. You don't need to know, the depth yet. You just need to know who's in it, what's going on, where are we at. And it's really neat how kids remember. If you ask them, they'll remember that they drew Mount Sinai and who was there. And so the images stay with them.
Yeah. Tell them about Elijah's picture of Mount Sinai. I love that.
He so as 5-year-old, he just started drawing, and most of the time it's, "Mommy, help me draw. What do I draw? I don't know what to draw." And so we, draw a mountain, and you draw Moses, and then there's the tablets, and then he knew God was on the mountain, so he just made a cloud and put a hand coming out of this cloud to show that he was giving him the tablets. So it's kind of neat because you get these opportunities to talk about things that just don't come up normally, and in that case, God doesn't have an image, so how can we do this? And it just starts to get them thinking a little more abstractly or concretely if we start to put it down on paper.
Right. Yeah.
So
I love that.
I have to say, when I found some drawings of mine back when I was a kid, and I grew up in the end of the 60s and beginning of the 70s was kind of my middle school years and early years in high school. So I looked back and found some pictures of mine, and they were pictures of war. I had airplanes and tanks and all this stuff, shooting bullets. The bullet would come across and hit something and being blown up and all this stuff. And I didn't put it together until later, but I was wondering, why did I draw all those pictures? It's because that was the era of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And it was, all around me was war, and pictures, my drawings helped me put on paper these thoughts and images and how I was envisioning them. So drawing is really a great outlet. If you're putting in the right input, then you'll know because you'll see it on the paper in some form. So he's getting the idea that there's Moses and God is some other kind of like, but somehow it's
He's
other.
big.
He's a cloud.
Yeah.
He's up there. So that's really great. He let art let them express themselves with art when words may not be there yet, or conceptually they're still working things out.
Right, and sometimes there are, well, naturally there are areas in the Bible that are difficult to do with them. They're very, maybe mature content. And so it's interesting to try to explain something in a very simple way, you know, why this is something we don't do, or why this is something we do. And to show them how, in just simple images of just like putting an X through it, or circling it with a check mark. It's like, that's what we're trying to aim for. That's what we're not trying to aim for.
Yeah.
Just basic understanding of what God's telling us to do. But they get it, like they just, and now my oldest, I mean, she just starts drawing. She just fills the page full of color, full of the things she's already been learning about. Yeah, you know, the images she's already drawn, because we've talked about it so much. Now she just goes to town, you know.
How long has she been doing? How long have you been doing it with her?
We
The
started
oldest?
when she was 6, so it's about 3 years, and she, she's learned a lot through it. You know, we talk about the Levitical priests and the tabernacle, and the different stories. She just seems to know a lot at such a young age.
Yeah.
So,
What's been, did you want to ask?
Yeah, by the way, I saw one of her pictures where I think it was her that did one where they had the counting of the people.
yeah, the
The
census.
census.
Census,
Yeah.
she had the numbers and all that
Right.
kind of stuff, the groups in there. the
I
tribes.
did that with her,
Yeah.
because naturally, Mom, what do I draw?
Yeah.
And so I had to think quickly. And usually when I am helping them, I think, well, how is it already sectioned off? And in this case, it's sectioned off by family. Okay, I'm dealing with 12. Let's make 12 circles, and we'll draw the families or a bunch of people in each circle, and let's write the name of the tribe and put the number. And now we got a picture, a lot of people, you know. And so it was a way for her to see, okay, now we're introducing the tribes of Israel, and then being able to participate and color with her, like that's a big deal to her.
Yeah.
And so that was just, it's a fun thing to create, and it helped me even remember, you know, I'm remembering these drawings that we're doing,
Right.
and to be able to take what I just heard and explain it in a simple way, it just solidifies it
Yeah.
in me as a teacher to her. Yeah.
Right.
So, as a teacher, what has been the most challenging thing with your kids? What's been the hardest thing to get across?
To get across, or just this whole.
Well, to get them to do this drawing and get them to learn to think that way, or know what you're asking them.
I think, well, my oldest is more artistic, so it wasn't too hard or challenging for her. It was harder when I had younger ones, because like 4-year-olds are maybe just starting to draw or never even thought to draw. And sitting there for such a long time is tiring, it's boring. So the biggest challenge was incorporating them into what we were doing. And this last year, my 5-year-old just started really, I mean, we had a notebook and he was scribbling, but he was actually starting to draw this year. And that just was so neat to see him just really, you know, I'm part of Bible time. And the challenge is, again, Mom, what do I draw? Like, I'm not really catching everything Daddy's reading. And so just trying to make it simple for the younger ones. And just that's mainly, I think, where the biggest challenge is incorporating those ones in.
Stages, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I love is that it's so cool that they'll have this their whole life to look back at and say, oh, look what I understood at age 5
Yeah,
and
it's
6
so
and
neat.
7.
There's already, my oldest has 2 composition books full of the whole Torah. And it's like her own little Bible,
Yeah.
you know, but it's so worn out, it's like falling apart. But it's so neat to go through it, and it's like, oh my gosh,
precious,
yeah,
really.
it's really neat.
Okay, well, not everyone is artistic like you. You're a graphic design artist, or your oldest is more artistic than the other. So what are some things that you would recommend for people who struggle in that area? Like, I'm definitely a stick figure person.
Yeah.
When it comes to art, Steve is pretty good actually. He could draw just about anything out of his head as an animal. I can't.
Right.
So
Yes.
give us some tips.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll use the board. Well, what you just said, stick figures, that is perfectly appropriate.
Okay, good.
And because what we're trying to do is just get concept across. It doesn't have to be a great drawing. You're just trying to show there's a person, there's a relationship on this page, there's something happening. So especially with the younger ones, they don't even know how to draw. So a stick figure is perfectly appropriate, and it helps them have confidence. Okay, mommy's saying, I just need to draw a circle. Okay, draw a circle. Okay, now give him a little body. Well, just like that, line, now a triangle. Okay, give him some arms. Now let's draw a face. Okay, now let's give him a beard. Can you just scribble something right here? And they just scribble, scribble, scribble. Look at that, we have Moses. And now you're talking about the next part of the picture. Okay, he was on Mount Sinai. Okay, we're gonna make a mountain. Do you know how to make a mountain? No, I don't. Okay, I'm gonna just draw 3 dots for you. Okay, we're gonna just do 1, 2, 3. Can you connect those dots? And so they draw their, wavy line, and there's our mountain, there's Mount Sinai. So who's on the mountain? Well, God's on the mountain. Well, he was in a cloud, so let's make a big cloud around there. So you just do a big thing like that.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is the tablets. Those are the key points of the story. So Moses gets the tablets. So you just draw something very simple and basic.
Yeah.
And that's all a 5-year-old really needs to know at this point,
Yeah.
When you have older children who, most kids like to draw, but there are some kids that just don't want to spend a lot of time drawing. That's when I would say, okay, what else can we add? Can you draw some people? There were other people there. There's a lot of people. Let's draw some tents down here. Let's just draw a couple tents. And encourage them to fill the page if they're older and they're capable. Because you're going to be reading a long time. They're going to need to sit there. And that's good for them to learn how to sit for that long doing something like this. Because eventually you hope that you're just sitting there reading together.
Yeah.
You're not drawing anymore. You're having dialogue. So it can just be as basic as this.
It seemed like you also had them label, like once they got older, they could write.
Yeah, so my older one, I tried to, at first
chapter.
when we did it, I would write, we started off with creation, so I would write day 1, this is what it was, day 2, day 3. And as she was more capable of writing, then I'd say, well, let's write something from what we just read. So she'd open her Bible and copy, just like a verse or something. Or just summarize, write down, Moses went up on the mountain and he got the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
Just something very simple.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have topics that are really complicated. There's a lot going on in the chapter. And so one thing we've done is we divide our page up into different blocks. It's almost like a comic book, if you think of it like that. So if this was our page, we write at the top, where we're at. Maybe it's just Exodus 12. And then you can draw a grid. Maybe we have a couple parts to the story, and we could put a 1 and circle it, and a 2, like we're going to follow the blocks. The one time the story of Nadab and Abihu happened, and we just took that as the first half. That was one story. And then we had a second story, which was the rest of the chapter, maybe. So we would divide up our page like this. And so we're talking about 2 different things. Other times it's just very fluid. I know my daughter has a lot of different she'll make little bubbles over here, bubbles over there, trying to show the action.
Yeah.
The one we did together of the census, it was, we grouped everything. And trying to get 12 in, you've got to really quick figure out, well, I can do 6 this way or 6 that way or 3 this way or 3 that way. So that's really a way to guide them through something so complicated. But, and it's great when you can also go in and write for them if they're not able to. I mean, there are children who are older who still struggle with that, and so they don't want to be discouraged in this. So just write for them, help them, especially if you can get the Hebrew. I know at first we started putting the Hebrew of the book at the top. So that's one way that you can do it alongside them. So, and that's powerful. Did that sound like a good example?
That makes me happy that it could be that simple.
Yeah.
I think I could do that.
I know, a lot of people think, well, I'm not an artist. It's like, well, you don't have to be. Your kids really aren't. They're not great artists. They're just learning. So you're at their level even. And
but
they
if you could gift them with even just the realization that it's okay, I don't have to do it. They might even become more artistic than they would have.
Right. And I just tell them, hey, we're just doing this to help you remember the story. It's not going to be on display anywhere. It doesn't have to, even for you as the adult. No one's going to see this. But there's a memory that's happening. Not just they're remembering the passage, but they're remembering that you were sitting with them and teaching them something. And that's super powerful.
Yeah.
And this is so important. I know when you that there are 4 layers of understanding in the scriptures. In the first, so there's the sod and the pashat and the drash, and then but the pashat is just the sod's the last one I was talking about. But anyway, there's the 4 levels there, and the first one is the packaging. It's just the story. And if you don't have the story, you don't have any of the rest of it. So it is really a great idea you've got here to help the kids get the package, to get the thing itself, and so they are getting it in visual aid form as well as they're hearing it by Dad reading it there, and maybe some discussion as you talk about how that might have, even the drawing, how there were tints there. So I like the idea of expanding their mind to get the whole picture of what was going on, because in that, a lot of times that extra content is the setting, the context is really important in understanding what was being told or what was really happening there.
And another tool that's really helpful is just your phone. Just look up a picture. If you can't draw it, you can show them. Like I would show, here's a picture of the tabernacle. Or here's what a high priest looked like. Look at the jewels, the stones on his breastplate. Or you can look up just illustrations instead of real pictures. The illustrations, here's a way you can draw a frog. It's very simple. But it also helps when, like for instance, the chapter on kosher and non-kosher. Okay, so we would make 2 columns. One side's kosher, one side's non-kosher. And as we're talking about it, it's like, do you know what a split hoof is? No, you've never seen it. Well, let's look up a picture. That's what it looks like. So let's draw that. And then we also draw some grass. And these are good. Over here, now we're going to draw a paw. Let's look up a picture, a simple paw from, they're all over the place, very simple circles. And then you're just drawing all the animals. And that's really important for them to have that imagery. Like that's immediate, understanding. I could explain a cleft hoof, but showing it and having them draw it, now they've got it. So it's a great tool for initially laying all this out.
That is great. I'm guessing even for the littlest ones, who may be the hardest to keep their attention and the least capable with the pencil, that if you have some general skills in drawing stick figures, they can color in. They can color in some of the stuff you've drawn for them.
So what do you do with your youngest?
She's around. She's 2, so we started. We have a notebook for her. And she gets some crayons and just scribble,
Just
scribble,
scribble,
scribble.
yeah.
It doesn't
That's
last
great.
very long,
Yeah.
but we're teaching her like to come sit with us and to try to stay with us. And but we understand she needs to roam. But what's nice about it is it's not disruptive. Sometimes it is. Sometimes she's grabbing for people's colored pencils. So you just have to train them to not interrupt. But
That's great training, though.
yeah, it's good
For-
training. Yeah. So that's how we see it. Like,
Yeah.
so we include her when we can.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a story real quick about when you first got started, kind of how it was, and then maybe some of the results that you've seen after working at it for 2 or 3 years. So.
Yeah. So when we first started, I just had it in my mind that I wanted to just, with my oldest, so she was 6 at the time, how can I do anything with the Bible with her? Like, I mean, there's probably tons of resources out there, but I wasn't latching onto anything. And I thought, well, why don't we just start at the beginning? So we went right to Genesis and pulled out this composition notebook, and we drew the earth together and filled it with so much color. And I said, we made it from like blue to purple. There's a nighttime sky, and we just talked about, oh, now we have the land and the water. And it was such a strong memory to draw together. That was what was so important in that moment. And then I continued with the next day, and we drew the whole Garden of Eden. Like, okay, what animal are you going to draw? I'm going to draw this. I'm going to draw that. And even now, like they want to sit with me during Bible time, and they want me to do it with them. Like they want me to join them, to color with them. And it's really a sweet moment to be able to do that. And so they're remembering more than just, like I said earlier.
They
they're
will talk about this the rest of their life.
Yeah.
I promise you. That's
Yeah.
what our
Yeah.
kids have, things that they're just like, remember when we would go out and put the picnic blanket out and read these books together? And it's when you stop and do it with them. It is so special.
Yeah.
Really good memory.
And I would say one challenge is when you have multiple children and they all want you to sit next to them. And then it's like, well, so you have to find a system for helping. Because the 5-year-old needs more help than the 9-year-old, but the 9-year-old's really wanting that time together. So I just have to,
You came up with a good system.
yeah.
Maybe you need to share that.
And that's good training, too. Teaching the older ones to be patient and help the younger ones, and younger ones to take their turn, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's great.
Yeah.
So what are some of the results? What are you finding that coming out of this?
They get excited when we say it's Bible time.
Good.
Aw.
They come running, and we give them responsibilities like, you got to get my Bible and get me a pencil, and you need to get the crayons, and you need to get the notebooks, and get Amelia's, And so they just, yay, Bible time, and they come running. And I think because it's on the couch too, it's comfortable, it's a very positive situation, and it doesn't last a long, long time. So it becomes something they enjoy. So I think that's what was wonderful about it. And of course, they remember. And my son just, like I said, he just started, but he's recalling stories because of what we drew. It's just right there. Like he's like, oh yeah, I remember. And then Aaron, and so he's even remembering names and things like that, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So, but I love how simple it all is. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It really doesn't. It just takes making the time for it and being willing to, while you want to listen and learn, it's like, no, I'm just teaching now. And how can I simplify this for them?
Yeah.
So,
And and it's always important, but I would say especially now. I was visiting with some couples the other day in our fellowship, and I was really encouraging them that, considering the times that we're in now, really better double down on getting in the framework of truth with your kids early and strong. There's no margin of error anymore. It can't be gray. It can't be half-hearted. And so I would say this is marvelous to invest in even your little 2-year-old who's just learning to be there. But to take the time to set aside to really invest in them, to make sure they're getting these stories, to getting the framework for all the truth that's in there, and getting it in early and getting it in clear and strong. that will save your kids. And parents really will do, well, I think it's essential that we get this information into our kids early and clearly, and those things are embedded and they can't be erased. They're going to be in there. And so you're wise to do that, and all the moms who are doing that, taking the time to do that, and being creative and investing, in the dads who are participating and helping as well. That's your hope for helping your kids make it through the days that are ahead. So that's great. Well done. And I would say, I know we talked about this a little beforehand, but it's not just something that that's useful for family Bible time, but it can be used in small groups, home fellowships. Whoever's teaching the kids has them aside. They can do these kind of things with them as well.
Yeah.
Classrooms or other contexts, it can be used about anywhere. So it's a good technique, practice to use to help relay any book of the Bible or section of Scripture or a concept that's there, and let the kids participate. In fact, it might be really useful in larger assemblies with adults to keep some of them awake, because if they're responsible for drawing a picture, they might stay awake.
Well, it might, and I was thinking this in regards to older kids beyond 11, because that's really where we're at, this up to 11 years old range. But kids that are older than that, 12, 13, 14, they can become not engaged. And I think that getting them a journal, some of them will like to art journal what they're hearing or what's being discussed in the adult group. But they can also just record verses, write them down. You can give them a writing assignment that's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, letter a verse and decorate it and make it pretty, or find something that boys might enjoy with writing. They might not like to do the lettering, but they might find something that appeals to them.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And it could be, I'm thinking out loud with you here, but it could be that when they're at the point where they can write, that it might be a good time to introduce Hebrew words or letters to them that contain that are in the passage and have these concepts.
Yeah.
So maybe pull them aside so everybody else is not lost in the conversation, but have a minute or two with them and let them work on some of that. And some of that can be drawing, and it's certainly writing. So, but just even write out the verse or a specific verse that's in there. It's great. It's great. This is the way we do it. So well done. Thank you for your time again today.
Yeah.
This is a great idea. Thanks for sharing with everybody. And just for everyone who's listening, we're going to have, be sure to look below the video to find in the link down there some more information, some helpful tips, and some exercises for you there that'll help you to restore your home. God bless. See you next time.